So now I'm adding the Meso 2 culture to the milk, and you just knock it with your finger. Try to spread it out as much as you can, and you just want it to sit on top of the milk. So what you're going to do now is all the molds are on, the cultures are on top of this milk, and you're going to set your timer for 3 minutes. And you're going to cover the milk. And what you're doing is you're letting the cultures rehydrate, and then we're going to mix it in. Alright, so our 3 minutes is up, and our cultures are on the top of the milk, and I have this ladle, and the way you stir it in is really gently. You're going to do like a O shape on the bottom of the pan all the way up to the top. So the motion's like this. Because if you just stirred like this, you're just keeping the cultures going this direction, but you want to completely combine all of the cultures into the milk. And the way to make sure you do it is to count this 20 times. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so now what you're going to do is, since I'm using calcium chloride, I added 1/4 cup of water, and you want to use good water. It's room temperature. And then I added in 1/4 teaspoon of calcium chloride, and I mixed it. I'm going to pour that in there. So it's been an hour, and I'm going to show you what a clean break looks like. When you lift up the curd, see how it separates cleanly like that? It doesn't fall back on itself, it's a clean break. So that means it's ready to cut the curd. This cheese, to get that kind of break, can take anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours. So you just come and check it, and then we don't move to the next step until you get this clean break, just like that. So what we're going to do now is called cutting the curd, and we're going to cut it into 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch wide squares. And I have this icing spatula, it's stainless steel, it works really well. You're going to go all the way down to the bottom and then pull it forward. And this is cutting it into rather large squares. This cheese is one of the, it's different than a lot of the other cheeses. And you're going to go this direction. You're doing about 1/2 inch squares. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then, so now you have long strips down, and then I go this direction that kind of cuts them off at an angle. And we're going to stir it gently for 2 to 3 minutes. And we're going to be really, really careful with this curd because it's a really soft curd. So 3 minutes. Really gentle. You're just kind of breaking it up. So after you've stirred for 2 to 3 minutes, and the cubes are about the size, or they're all about the size of about 1/2 inch, approximately. They'll all be different sizes, but break it down to about 1/2 inch. You're going to let the curds settle and don't touch them for 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes. And you're going to do this without stirring. You're just going to let them sit here. So I like to cover it up in case there's any airborne particles. You don't want them getting in there. It also helps maintain a steady temperature. Alright, so the curds have been sitting in the whey, and now you can see there's the whey above the curds. And you can take there's 2 different ways that you can go from here. You can immediately take these curds and gently put them in the molds and mold them. Or the other option, which I learned from Margaret Morris in her DVD, is she takes all of these curds and puts them in and does a draining process before she mold, does the mold. And what that does, I guess it helps you get a better texture of your finished Camembert. And then what you're going to do is tie this to a cabinet and let the curds drain for 20 minutes. So set your timer for 20 minutes. And I have, this is my favorite bucket. I got it at Lowe's. It's a 2-gallon food grade plastic bucket. And I use it all the time for cheese making. So I'm going to bring it over here to this cabinet. And I'm going to just tie it up to here and let it drain for about 20 minutes. So I use this for Brie and Camembert, which is the same cheese. It's a Tupperware container that I use only for cheese. And then a cooling rack for baking. And then it gives like a little gap under here for the whey. And then these are Oriental mats that you can buy at Oriental stores or the cheese making supply store. They use these for rolling up sushi. So that's what you asked for. And then these are the Camembert molds. Or, yeah, I'm going to use them as Brie molds. And then I've got, you can get this from Cheese Making Supply. It's just a mat that's got finer holes so the curd doesn't fall through there. And that's what I'm going to use and put the curd in. So this is what the curd looks like after 20 minutes of draining. On the outside it's a little bit firmer, but on the inside you can see it's still very soft. And so what you do is you can gently take the curd and bring it over to your molds, and then you're just going to fill up your molds, and you're just going to do it until you run out of this curd. And you want to fill up your molds about 3/4 the way full, because as the whey drains out, they'll shrink considerably in size. So now I've got all the curds in the molds, and I actually have a double batch of Camembert in here because I'm using it for Christmas and I'm going to use it as presents, so I need to make 6 of them. So you need to set your timer for 3 hours and close the lid. It helps keep the humidity up in there and it'll help drain the whey. And then if the whey ever comes up as high as the bottom of the molds, you're going to need to lift out this bottom draining rack and then pour out this excess whey. You could also put holes in the bottom of this container to make it easier to drain. But when this goes off, what I'm going to do is flip the cheese over so the top of it will look as good as the bottom, so it's even. So once the cheeses have been draining 3 hours, you flip them, and I flip them by lifting up the mat, just turning them over and then putting the mat underneath. So these have been draining overnight. You let them drain at room temperature covered for 12 hours. These have been draining more than that because I didn't want to wake up at 3 in the morning to do it. But this is what the finished little cheese looks like. And now you're going to salt each one of these. So I just take about half a tablespoon of salt. You take it and kind of lightly rub the top. And you want to use, this is very important, you want to use salt that is non-iodized. And I just rub it with salt. And then once it's rubbed with salt, I'm going to show you my contraption that I have that I'm going to put in my aging refrigerator. I have these Tupperware boxes that I got. Well, they're Sterilite. Anyways, what I did was I put holes in them with my husband's drill. And I just put several holes because you want the boxes to be able to breathe. So now we're putting our Camembert or Bries into the aging cheese cave, which these are just wine fridges that I converted to cheese caves because I can keep them at about 50 degrees. And the mold grows the best at about 50 degrees. Over here is all my hard cheeses, and then over here is all my soft blooming rinds, smeared cheeses like Munster, Gruyere, stuff like natural rinds are all over here. So this is what I do. I put the label on here. It should take 3 to 4 weeks for these to be ready to eat. And what you need to do is every day you need to come in here with clean hands and you have to flip the cheese like this. And this is really important because you're going to get little white mold that's going to grow all over these, and if you don't do that, the crust won't form correctly because there'll be a lot of moisture underneath. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to leave the lids, even though I have holes, you want to leave them cockeyed until the crust of that white mold is all formed all over here. So I have 6 of these that I'm doing. So I have all of them cockeyed. And ideally this cheese likes a really humid environment. So in this cheese cave I actually have a little humidifier, and it just has a little bottle. I think I got it on Amazon, and I have it on low, and it blows out a cool mist, and it helps keep my this cooler at a higher humidity, which is 85 now, and I have a hard time getting it any higher than that. And my temperature is at 51. Okay, so it should take 3 or 4 weeks if you are aging this at 50 to 54 degrees. Alright, I'm going to show you what our Camembert looks like. It's been 1 week aging in the cheese refrigerator. And it's all covered in this really nice Camembert mold. And it's kind of got like white fuzzies all over it, and as you can see it has a really nice cover on the sides and the top and the bottom. And when it's completely covered like this with the mold, what you want to do is you want to cover this with something. So you want to cover it either with plastic wrap really lightly, or your other option is you can use oak leaves, boil them, and then put them in a salad spinner to get the water off. And you can also use fig leaves and cover it. And what that does is it kind of protects it allows a breathable area, and it protects the rind from getting too thick when it finishes aging. Oh yeah? The option I'm going to do today is I'm going to wrap in, it's cheese paper, and it's breathable. It's double-sided. You can get it from your cheese-making supplies companies. This is a 12 by 12 sheet. And I just put it over. It kind of grabs onto it a little bit. I'm just going to wrap both of them. And there's 2 sides to this paper. The side that's dull, kind of looks like a wax side, that's the side that goes towards the cheese. Just like that. And so this will continue aging in this protective wrapping. You can either put it in the refrigerator now or continue aging it in here for another 2 to 3 weeks. And if you press on it now, it's very firm, kind of like more firm, probably like your forehead. And so that's how you know it's definitely not ready yet, when you push on it in the center. So these will go back in the aging refrigerator with the other cheeses. And you still have to turn them once a day. And they're getting closer to being done. This is the finished Camembert. And you know it's done when, if you press on the top, it gives quite a bit, kind of like if you push on the side of your cheek, you'll feel it giving, and that's how you know the Camembert is done. And also at room temperature, once you cut into your Camembert, it'll weep a little bit like this. It'll be like the cheese is melting, and that is a good sign. That's a sign that your Camembert did really, really well. So this is what it looks like when it's cut, and the rind is edible. It's a little bit bitter. And my husband only likes the inside part. I like the whole thing. Anyways, cut a piece and put it on a cracker and enjoy. It's delicious.